Welcome to another episode of the JODY Podcast. I'm Dee.
And I'm Joe.
And today, our episode is actually geared towards a question we got on one of our recent episodes. I actually think that this is a question that a lot of people are going to relate to. So I'm going to read it just for the people who may not have seen the comment on the last episode, and then we'll go from there. All right, so this question is from Shadrach, who says, as a guy and being single for a while, I understand trusting in God and being on God's timing. However, I feel like everywhere I go, whether it be work, church, social media, I'm surrounded by people in relationships, making my void of loneliness deeper. So I guess my question would be, year after year and holiday seasons over and over again, does waiting get any easier over time?
Good question. I would just like to point out to the ladies, it's not just us.
Very true. Yeah, because you know how sometimes people act like men don't have feelings? Yes, they do.
Yeah,
they do.
or it's like we're the only ones not finding anyone. But I think as I heard the question or saw the question, one of my thoughts were, wow, so it's not just, women just going with the struggle, waiting for, God to act or to reveal the person that he has for them. A lot of Christian men go through the same thing as well. And it's a matter of the both of us being aware of that. Because sometimes, too, I feel like we can be a little cavalier with things that we say. Both men and women alike, where we're like either men are trash or there's no good women left or whatever it might be. But in reality, both of us, we're both in the waiting.
Yep.
So
that's true.
I do think when I read that question, I thought about my own waiting journey. And one of the things that I realized was that I'm not necessarily sure that waiting gets easier, but I do feel like it changes with time. I can remember times where when I first made a decision to like, okay, let's focus on just waiting for the person that God has, you get a little antsy. So sometimes when you get antsy, you will, do things more. Like it's almost like I'm searching for this individual. You're more active and dating more. And I'm not saying dating is wrong, just FYI, so don't come for me. But you're being more intentional, or if you do meet someone, you're doing your best to make it happen. And then I remember feeling frustrated at some point because you feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm putting myself out there. I'm going out on dates, still not encountering that connection, talking to people, exploring dating apps and whatnot. The outcome is still the same.
Yeah.
So after getting to that point of frustration, I then felt like as if, see Daisy, we're good. So after that point, I know, right? After I got to that point of frustration, then I kind of felt like, okay, fine, I did the Sarah. I'll take matters into my own hands. So, you try to manipulate outcomes, and then, when you're dating someone, you're trying to take control, I guess is the best way to describe it. Because you're like, okay, well, here's what I'm looking for. Here's what I'm not looking for. Here's the timeline I'm looking for. Like, you're just kind of laying it out. Like, it's either take it or leave it. Just controlling it. First date, you're trying to find out all of these different things. You're like, I'm not wasting time anymore.
It's an interview.
It's an interview, And then I just got to a point where after some mentorship from, one of the ladies at church, where she was like, God already has the person that he has for you. You just need to be still and wait on him. When the time is right, he will take that person from where they are. He will take you from where you are, and then he will put the two of you together. Don't go looking for trauma.
Part.
At that point, I realized that a lot of the situations that I found myself in, especially in retrospect or hindsight, I would see how much God was protecting me through a lot of the situations that did not work out, a lot of the things that I thought were a good match, but they were not. And I realized that I had peace in my heart because at that point, the waiting became more of God looking out for me rather than God denying me an outcome that I was praying to him for.
So it's kind of like there was a shift in your perspective over time.
Right. And I think that shift is what allows for peace. Knowing, and we've said this on previous episodes, knowing God's heart, knowing his faithfulness, his character, knowing that if he's not allowing you to step into a season, it's with good reason, because he loves and cares for you. So when you can trust God's heart, that gives you peace. It's almost like when you have your own child, for instance, and you know you don't want anything bad for them. So if you deny your children of something they're asking for, it's because you see a bigger picture. Yes. And I think that gave me peace because I know that there's no better parent than God.
But no, I think you made a good point because it kind of shows that God isn't the type of person who is just doing things randomly. It's not purposeless, it's purposeful. So when you have that perspective where you recognize God isn't just this being in the sky, he's my dad. Right. He's my father, and he's always looking out. So if certain things haven't happened at a specific point in time, it goes back to what you said earlier. You have to trust God's heart rather than what you see. Right. But I think as humans, it's easy to notice all of the couples. You know, they're holding hands, they're going on vacation together, they're posting stuff on social media. And it kind of makes me think of the story of Jesus walking on water. The minute Peter looked around him, he began to sink. Yeah. And I think sometimes without meaning to, as Christians, not that we notice the wrong things, because of course you're human, you're going to notice, but maybe we fixate or linger on them too long. So one thing that I do want to point out, and this is me speaking from my own experience, it's okay to feel sad about being single, about not having someone. I think sometimes in Christian circles, I don't know if any of you are familiar with this term called spiritual bypassing, where basically we use Christianity or spirituality to brush our feelings under the rug. Well, you know, God is working things out, so don't worry about it. Don't stress. You know, he's got it covered. You don't need to be sad. And I'm like, the Psalms is full of people basically saying, I'm sad. I'm depressed. I feel discouraged. I have no hope. God has forgotten about me. Yeah. Where are you, God? So God is not against us being open and honest about our feelings. So one of the things that I would say, even before getting to the question of does the waiting get easier, I would say it's okay to be honest about your struggle with the loneliness.
Right. And I think, too, one of the things that people have to recognize is sometimes it's cyclical. So it's like you could get to that place of peace today and you see someone like what the Shadrach was saying. You see a couple or you see another friend of yours has gotten married, and then maybe that thing, it kind of unearths something in you again, where you feel a level of, you know, loneliness, or you feel a level of frustration, or just wondering, you know, when is my time coming, you know? So I do think that just because you're getting, how could I say it? It's almost like, you know how they describe the grief process?
Yes.
So when you cycle through those stages of grief, one of the things that I think people think is once you get to the acceptance stage, you stay there. But that's actually not true. Something can trigger a memory or a feeling. Next thing you know, you find yourself in a place of sadness or anger or denial, or even bargaining, where you're like, you know, I wonder if, you know, we had done X, Y, Z, would this still be here? Or would this person still be here? Would this relationship still exist? And so on and so forth. But what I do think happens over time is you spend more time in the peace stage.
Okay, I can see
much
that.
like you would spend more time in the acceptance stage when you're grieving. So it's like the frustration, though still present, you stay there a little bit less. And then the peace, you sit there a little bit more.
I like that. And I actually feel like, so speaking for myself, a little bit about my story, I feel like we had some similarities where there were moments where it really just felt like I had no prospects. I wasn't meeting anyone, wasn't really interacting with anyone. And then I had multiple people say, you know, get out there. Get on the dating apps, put yourself out there more, socialize, network, and so on and so forth. And I did all of those things, but at the same time, you know how when something's not right, it can be worse than being by yourself. I think that
That's
was
true.
the point that I got to, where I started to recognize, as much as I may want to have a partner, I don't want to have the wrong one. So,
That part.
because sometimes when you see everyone in a relationship, going back to what we said in the last episode, it can make you question yourself. How come, I'm still single? How come this? How come that? But also I had to recognize, for me at least, one of the things that helped with my loneliness was actually building my relationship with God. And the reason that I say that is because I haven't always treated God like he was a person. I kind of treated God like, the person who saved me and the person that I go to when I need something. But the more I worked on, I want to be God's friend. I want to be in a relationship with God. What ended up happening is exactly what you described, where I still have those moments of occasional loneliness, but I'm in the peace part for much longer.
Right.
So it's not to say that I never feel lonely. I do. And sometimes I do see couples and I feel wistful, or I'm like, aw. But then there's also that bittersweet tinge there. But I do feel like the waiting, I don't want to say it got easier, but going back to what you said, the way I was waiting changed so that I got to a point where more of the time is spent feeling calm, feeling peaceful, or even feeling content than focusing on what I lack.
Yeah.
And then I think another thing that I did that helped me, honestly, was just being grateful and plugging into my friendships. Because sometimes without meaning to, we neglect the platonic relationships while looking for the romantic one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I could see that. I think a lot of times it's almost like, I don't think people recognize we have a limited amount of energy. So when you're putting a lot towards a relationship, you tend to neglect others, not intentionally, but it's just because we only have a limited supply. But I do think that it's a good season to not only get in touch with the friends that you have, but to just live life. I think sometimes that will facilitate that feeling of peace when you actually enjoy the season you're in. I think I don't remember if this is the right pastor, but I want to say I was listening to a sermon by Bishop Bronner, and he talked about how life goes in seasons, because a lot of times we're thinking in terms of time, kind of like what we were saying in the last podcast, where it's like, this is the year. And he's like, God doesn't work like that. God works in seasons. So sometimes the reason why you haven't exited is because you haven't left a particular season of your life. And I think that when you're in that season of singleness, sometimes we forget what we could be doing. So for example, go on trips, meet up with friends, try adventurous things. Because when you have kids, you're not going to be able to try that no more.
Right.
I feel like as if, take the biggest risk, even business-wise. There's certain risks you're not going to take when you have a family.
Exactly.
You're going to take it when you know, okay, I'm only having to take care of me.
Yes.
So it's a matter of use that time, start that business.
Take that job across the country.
Exactly. Travel internationally and do all of the things, because when you settle down, that becomes a lot harder to do without neglecting your family or putting them at risk. So I do think that when you start to enjoy the season you're in, it gives you peace about what's to come, because you realize every season has a purpose. And I think that while, yes, self or personal development is a part of it, a part of it is just have fun.
Yes.
Like, enjoy the freedom.
I agree.
You get to, if you decide to, you don't work a 9 to 5, you can sleep in if you want. If you want to get up and go to a restaurant, get up and go. You want to do brunch, do that. You want to just book a last minute trip because there's a deal on it,
right.
Do it. Like it's one of those things where once I don't know if people recognize, but you ever feel like as if when you first start grieving someone, all you focus on is the negatives. Like you focus on the sadness, sometimes the anger. and all that comes with it, that negative feeling. But sometimes too, you get to a point where you recognize you're thinking and you're like, wow, I had this memory with this person, or I'm glad I at least got to enjoy this time with this individual. Some people take it so far as to maybe start something like a foundation in their name or something, like leaving a legacy of some sort. So it doesn't always stay negative. It shifts to something positive. And I would say a lot of people in the season of singleness, you need to make it so memorable that you look back to that season and you're like, wow, I did it right.
I love that. And I think too, sometimes the culture or the society you grow up in, they make singleness seem like a bad thing. Like it's all bad. Let me put it like that. As opposed to recognizing, yes, there are downsides to being single, but that's true of everything. Just like there are downsides to being married, there are downsides to being single. So if a person can pivot where they actually focus on, I'm gonna make my singleness the absolute best time of my life, so that when God finally transitions me into another season, like you said, I can look back fondly on this season. I feel like you're doing singleness right.
Right.
There's a pastor we love to listen to, Dr. Tony Evans, who said, if you're single and you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. So I would definitely challenge
100%.
everyone watching, if you are single and you feel like, oh, I'm bored, I don't have anyone, and I'm, down all the time, focus on what can I do to enjoy and live my life to the fullest right now. And then trust, I think you mentioned this in one of the other episodes, Joseph was in the prison, but the Bible says at the appointed time, he was ushered into the palace.
Yep.
All of us have an appointed time. We just don't know when that appointed time is.
Yeah, you got to be ready.
What makes the wait harder is not knowing when is the appointed time. But think about when you're traveling, like if you have like a long layover between destinations, you don't just sit at the gate like.
You don't.
At least I don't. Maybe some people do.
What you do
is you bring a book, you bring a tablet, you bring a phone, you eat a snack. You basically do things so that you're not focused on, oh my God, only 1 minute has passed.
Yeah.
Instead, you're actually focused on other things or getting work done. And then when they finally call you for your flight, you just get up and go.
Yeah. And if it's an even longer layover, sometimes you explore where you're at.
Yes.
So it's one of those things where it's
true.
almost like, I would say, think of it as taking the scenic route. So it's almost like we're not just flying straight to our destination or, cruising straight to a destination, but it's like we're enjoying things along the way. And I actually think the way a cruise ship does it is nice, because sometimes you take days to get to your destination.
Yes.
But while you're taking the days, there's lots of activities on the boat to distract you from the journey. And I think that sometimes instead of being out doing the activities, you're staying in the cabin, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, get out that cabin and go outside, So sometimes, and I'll even encourage, some of my other friends that are single, and I'm like, hey, let's be outside, or let's go outside. Not necessarily do anything bad, but it's almost like life is passing us by. What are you doing to enjoy your time?
Yeah. Now, I'm not going to lie. When you said what you said earlier, I heard someone yell through the screen.
That's good.
The scenic route. The scenic route. I done seen the scenic route. Like, I done went through the highways and the byways. Like, I literally heard someone say,
bored
I'm
of the
tired.
cruise activities.
Yes. They're like, I am tired of the cruise activities. I'm tired of being at sea. I want to land in the marriage port. Okay, now what?
Thank God that wasn't the microphone. But I feel like but then again, I know everyone doesn't think this way. I'm of the mindset of when things get boring, change it up. And you can still change it up even with the same things. I don't know how to explain it except for maybe, a workout, for example. When you're doing the same workout every single day, it can get boring. It's like, I don't want to do this. It's the same old thing every single day. I feel bored with it. Honestly, your body kind of gets bored with it too, because now you're not getting the same results, because your body's like, I know what's coming.
Right.
She's going to do this one, and then she's going to do that one, and then she's going to lift, and then she's going to squat, and then she's going to do all of these things. The way that you keep your body on top of it is changing up the workout. You're using the same equipment, or you're doing calisthenics or whatever it is, but you're changing it up. And I think that sometimes we need to get accustomed to changing things up. If you're starting to feel like things are getting boring, I'm looking at the same scenes, change it up. What is something new that you can explore during your single season that will help you enjoy it a little bit more? And honestly, sometimes the reason why it's hard to switch it up is because whatever you're doing only involves you. When you're a believer, a lot of times when God has you waiting, it's because he has something for you to do.
Yes.
In the words of what he said to Elijah, get up. Like, go serve someone. Go work a ministry. Go decide, okay, you know what? I'm going to get involved in a new ministry this season. Ask God, where does he want you to serve? Or ask God, what does he want you to do? Some of you aren't even supposed to even be where you are. God is calling you to get up or to move, and you're just staying in that same state or that same city or that same environment, not even noticing he's calling you to go somewhere. So I do think there are things that we can intentionally do to change the scene. And if you're getting restless and it's a righteous restlessness, it could be because God is calling you to something, but you're missing the call.
Yeah. When you said a restlessness, it reminded me, and I can't remember the term that this woman used at a retreat, but she basically said, whatever you get angry about is tied to your calling. So there are going to be, maybe some of you are frustrated with your singleness, and your calling may be related to working in that space to minister to those people.
Yeah.
And then following the exercise analogy you just shared, I think sometimes in our singleness, as in our marriage and in other seasons of life, God is like a personal trainer trying to change up the workout to exercise different muscles, but some of us refuse. We're like, I don't want to exercise.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't like them chin ups.
I don't want to grow in that. I don't want to grow in patience.
Not trying to be a linebacker.
I don't want to be long suffering
at all.
I don't want to grow in gentleness. Like, God is doing these different things in your life to grow you in these areas, and you're completely missing it because you want to do something else. And again, that goes back to what we talked about in one of the last episodes. Sometimes we don't trust God because we kind of think we know best.
Yeah.
And in doing that, it's a kind of heart idolatry where you're putting yourself in God's place. And when you try to put yourself in God's place, one way or another, he's going to show you, I am God and you are not.
True. And I think that humility is essential even for marriage. I don't think people think about it like that, but when we're thinking about marriage, humility goes a long way. If you are never able to take accountability or you're never able to admit that you're wrong about something, it will cause a lot of contention in your marriage. And it's a matter of being able to dumb it down a little bit and see, is there something that I can shift? Is there something that I can change? Because otherwise, all it ends up being is conflict. And over time, that breaks a marriage down.
Yeah, no, that's true.
It really does. So I do think that it's something that if we have not yet learned to humble ourselves before God, then it's something that we have to learn to do.
Yeah. No, I have a friend of mine, shout out to Nicola, who always says marriage is death daily.
Yep.
Every single day you have to die to self.
Yep.
And some of us don't even want to die to self right now as singles. And remember, even if you're single, God is still your spouse. So we have to be dying to ourselves for God and his will and his glory daily. We don't want to do that now, but yet we want to get into a marriage where we're going to have to do that daily to an imperfect human being.
Right. That's not easy.
It's not.
But it goes back to God is teaching you something. And I
Yeah.
think it's one of the things when you realize that every single day God is teaching you something through the season that you're in, I think it fuels your faith. You then realize everything serves a purpose.
Yes.
Whether it's the wait, whether it's learning patience during the wait, whether it's learning to be humble, whether it's learning to be long-suffering. All of these things are things that will benefit us in whatever God has called us to. So yes, we're going to feel down about it sometimes. You may feel frustrated, lonely, sad, and so on and so forth. But it's one of those spaces where you're able to do both. I can hold on to my faith even though I'm experiencing these feelings, because I know whatever it is, ultimately, God will work it out for my good. Yeah. And I'm a firm believer in if it doesn't seem good, it's not over. So it's a matter of understanding that God is still writing your story. And when he's done, it's going to be a masterpiece.
Amen. There's a song by Torrin Wells that says, there will be joy in the morning. Some of us, it's the night before. It's dark. It's depressing. But we do want to encourage you and remind you guys that God has not forgotten about you. God sees you right now in your room, in your office, in your car, wherever it is that you're listening to this. And he has a plan. But part of that plan is learning to trust him and learning to trust his timing. If we can get to a point where we grow in our relationship with God, where we know his character and we know his heart, it helps us to get through the waiting, even if the waiting goes on for way longer than we expected. Yeah.
So I hope this was helpful to everyone, especially Shadrach. I hope we answered your question. If not, please do not comment that on this post. However, of course, feel free to post any additional questions that you guys have. Remember that God loves you guys and trust him to write your story. And I honestly believe that one day what we'll be seeing are testimonies of people who got through the wait, who learned the different lessons, and who are coming back and telling God, thank you, because he is an amazing writer.
Amen. And I would love it if some of you who are watching, if you are one of those success stories, put it in the comments. It can help to encourage people to believe that God is going to provide. If you feel comfortable, share your age, because I know that there are a lot of people in extended singleness who need that encouragement. But again, thank you so much for watching. Please like, follow, subscribe, share. And we're looking forward to seeing you guys in our next episode.
See you later.
Bye.